Welcome to this edition of Like Nobody's Business. I'm Mary Beth Sewald. We're going to jump right into the show today. We're talking about coronavirus. I'm joined today by Bryan Wachter of the Retail Association of Nevada and Mr. David Brower of Truline Corporation. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You know, the headline in the Review Journal this morning said, "No end of coronavirus panic shopping in sight in Las Vegas." One of the things we really have been trying to do is to allay some of those fears. And David, tell us a little bit about why people should not be panicked about there being products in the stores.
If you look at the distribution centers where the local supplies come for the grocery stores, they are stocked. There's no reason to think that supplies won't be there tomorrow or next week or the week after. The supply chain is in place, it's functioning properly, and it's operating the way it should.
And there's actually a food surplus in the country right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got incredible surpluses, milk, cheese, especially given the fact that we were in such a trade discussion with China to begin with, really meant America had a lot of surplus on its hands. And so this is an opportunity to go through that surplus. I mean, what we're seeing here is Christmas level shopping in March, which the supply chain wasn't prepared for. But what the supply chain does well is it's nimble, it's flexible, it gets it where it needs to go. And so we're seeing it adapt and change now. You know, what David talks about the distribution centers and the warehouse centers, that's all part of that process. So product is coming, we've got plenty of it. It's really just a spike in demand that doesn't seem to be retreating.
Exactly. And Bryan, talk to us a little bit about what you're telling your members at the Retail Association of Nevada.
You know, it's a difficult time for our small members, of course, making sure that their employees are staying healthy, that they're quarantining or self-isolating as much as possible. Of course, everyone has kicked up the washing your hands, making sure there's hand sanitizer everywhere. Retailers are really kind of in this extra traffic mode. So you'll start seeing some of the standard things that we do at Christmas time, right? Where we start limiting quantities, or we're putting different products in different parts of the store. We've got more line control. So these are things that we're just pulling from a Black Friday Christmas shopping standard operating procedure that we're implementing in March. So it's not new, it's not crazy, it's just something that we can do, and we do it well.
And I know some stores like Smith's and Amazon are actually hiring right now.
Almost on site, I would say. There's going to be a huge flux of that hiring that has to take place. Essentially, what we're doing is we're diverting other places and pieces of the supply chain into this one kind of avenue. And because of that, there will be an increased need for labor. And unfortunately, we'll be able to have the labor force to meet that.
Yeah. So David, tell us a little bit more about the trucking and what are some of the regulations that have made it a little more difficult, and how are those being relaxed to some degree?
Well, as we just mentioned, it's very similar to a Christmas Black Friday environment out there right now. The difference is during that time it's predictable, and we have a period to gear up and stock the stores and get them ready for it. In this situation, it kind of happens overnight, and we are nimble and we are flexible, but it still takes a little time to get the stores stocked up, especially when day after day people are clearing the shelves. If you look at it the next day, though, the stores get their deliveries every day as are required, and we're able to keep them rolling. The distribution centers are maintaining their stocks. The supplies are coming in to fill the distribution centers that stock the local trucks, that stock the shelves that each of us see every day. So there's no need to panic. I just can't reinforce that enough. The trucks, more trucks. In fact, we've doubled our capacity for the local grocery stores. They're making that many deliveries to help allay the fears and to keep the shelves full, and we'll continue to do that. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has declared an emergency exemption for the hours of service. Drivers are strictly regulated on the number of hours that they can work, the number of hours they can drive in a day.
Is it like 11 hours in a 14-hour day?
Yeah, drivers are allowed to work 14 hours on duty and behind the wheel for 11 of those hours. With this exemption that's come across for specific items and foodstuffs, things related to the coronavirus, quarantine, masks, gloves, any items that might that will help the communities cope and deal with these things are exempt from those hours of service. The FMCSA has allowed the drivers to use their discretion, the motor carriers to use their discretion in how many hours a driver works, and we're taking advantage of that. Doesn't mean that we're relaxing our safety or the focus that we have on keeping the motor public safe. That's not the case at all. It just allows the drivers the opportunity to finish their routes, to continue to move the foods and the other commodities that are necessary. The wait times that we are seeing picking up at the distribution centers and delivering, normally between 2 to 4 hours, have increased to in excess of 6 hours now. So a lot of the time that the drivers would have to be on the road, to be at the stores making their deliveries, are spent kind of burning up their time waiting for the loads.
So I know that Nevada is sort of considered a short haul versus what we think of as a long haul state. How does that affect the driving and the transportation as well, and how that's handled with the Trucking Association?
Well, we're kind of a regional market. We don't rely on our restocking commodities to come from long distances. We're in a shorter lane than most, which allows for those restocking commodities to be delivered in a more expedited fashion. We can get them quicker. We can get a better response time when the need arises.
So all in all, the goods are there, and the products are there's no shortage. It's just a matter of the travel times and then the distribution and getting the shelves restocked again.
Well, really, I think if folks could do their regular weekly
Grocery shopping?
Their regular weekly grocery shopping,
Yeah.
Then I think folks will find that there's more product on the shelf for everybody. And if we kind of just slow down for a moment. In fact, if you've already gone to the store in the last week and you've done your shopping, this might be a good week to stay home, right? That was the point of all of that shopping last week. So stay home, use those products, be confident that you'll be able to go to the grocery store next week to get more. And if we all just kind of take those steps, you'll start seeing products on the shelf.
Yeah, to that point, my husband and I went shopping over the weekend, and we bought Easter tulips and champagne or something like that. And people were looking at us kind of funny because we weren't stocking up on things, but we just did our regular weekly shopping like we always do.
No, and that's perfect, and I think that's how we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, if a family's quarantined, that's 14 days. So as long as you've got 14 days of your commodities that you need, you're just fine. And in those after those 14 days, there'll still be commodities on the shelves for you to restock with.
And Bryan, I know some of the restaurants, for example, are changing some of their policies, going to delivery or pickup only and things like that.
Absolutely. Whether in different parts of the country are under kind of different rules depending on what their governments are doing. But in Nevada, restaurants are still open. We're encouraging folks to utilize drive-throughs as much as possible. We're encouraging folks to look at delivery options, and even on the delivery options, there's different techniques. Just last night we ordered in dinner, and it was just delivered to a table that we put outside the door. The gentleman, knocked on the door and then walked away, and we brought it in. So there are things that are being seamless. That technology and innovation are really making this process, I think, a little bit easier on folks. And so we're just asking folks to take those little considerations. Maybe it's new to you. Maybe you've never delivered food before. Now's a perfect opportunity to try. I know a lot of the delivery fees are being waived and the extra costs. We've seen some delivery companies that are offering to small restaurants to waive some of those commission prices. And so that'll help the smaller restaurants kind of stay in business. But we also, on the other hand, are seeing restaurants that are closing. And so that's something that we're going to have to grapple with.
Well, you bring up a good point. What are some of the things that out there that are being relaxed in order to make it easier for businesses to stay open or to be safer?
Well, I think first and foremost, the Families First bill that the House of Representatives got around to this last week that's waiting on some Senate movement. But in there, you're going to see some increased sick pay regulations. You're also going to see some tax credits for small businesses that have to pay out those paid sick leave benefits. There's a technical correction that's being made to that. And so there are things that small businesses now can utilize through the Small Business Administration, some low-cost loans, in order to be able to keep your doors open, pay your employees, and make it through this period. There's also, I think, going to be a companion bill that's working its way through the Senate and House right now that should increase an economic stimulus to the tune of about $800 billion, I think is the last
Yeah,
number.
850, I think.
850,
Yeah.
that's excellent. So depending on how and where those monies are attributed, we're going to be able to see that. Some of the other things that are working on are WIC. So women and children, when it comes to products, asking the state to allow some substitution flexibility. So maybe we don't have the particular brand that was WIC approved, but instead of turning someone away, we want to make sure that we get them some sort of product. So making sure that we have a little bit more flexibility in those rules. And then I think we'll see some flexibility in the SNAP or food stamps. In terms of who's eligible, maybe some of those work requirements are going to be relaxed given the current situation. So I think government at every level are doing great things. To the locals, and we've had a lot of help with the chamber on this, so I appreciate that. Getting delivery times relaxed throughout the state so that when we are making it, when David's guys are making it from the distribution centers and the warehouse, they're not like, oh, it's 2 a.m., I can't deliver to the grocery store. No, we're going to go ahead and waive that and make sure we get products on the shelf. So it's a community effort. It's great. We're coming together. I'm very confident that we're going to be able to get through this, and it's through partnerships with the chamber, the trucking association, and our local governments. But the process is coming together, and we're speeding it up.
Well, I agree with you, Bryan. I couldn't agree more. We're all going to get through this together. And on that happy note, stay with us. We'll be back right after this.